Good afternoon. Today we are starting Unit 3 with CO13. I can interpret and write numeric and algebraic expressions. Now we're starting to get into the more meatier stuff. Okay, I love algebra. It's my favorite. So I love teaching about those algebraic expressions. So let's see what these vocab words mean. So this is the building blocks. We start off our unit getting a little slow step, and we're going to build on it. So first thing we have to know is, what is an expression? An expression is a mathematical statement. And when we do algebra, we use variables. A variable is a symbol. So a letter used to represent an unknown value. And I've talked about how we're not using the X as our multiplication symbol anymore, because we're going to be using X sometimes as a variable. And we need to know it's a variable and not multiplying. So that's why we're using the dot to symbolize multiplying, because the X is now going to be used as variables. Lucas?
Wouldn't pi technically be a variable because we don't know the entirety of pi?
Well, is pi a symbol?
Yeah, pi has a symbol.
Okay. Well,
Why do we mostly use x?
you'll see as we do it, we don't always do it, but X is just easy to make. Instead of going, okay, I'm gonna use an, it just takes longer. So people use X as their variable because it's quick and easy. But you'll notice in our work, you can use any letter. It doesn't have to be X.
Why not L?
It can be. That's what I'm saying, Matthew. So the trick is to know what words and phrases mean mathematically, because we're going to be doing word problems, and we're going to have to figure out what math those word problems are telling us to do. So it's not going to say multiply. It's going to use other words, and we have to know, oh, that means I need to multiply. So I'm going to be totally honest. You're going to want to fill this in completely on your binder, because you're going to want it on your help sheet. Truly. Because when it comes time for that test, you might go, oh, I remember we did that at the beginning of the unit. I got it all right. I get it. By the time it comes time for the test, we're going to forget what some of those words mean. And that's something we can put on our help sheet. So really, truly, fill this out. What are some words that mean addition? Damien? Plus. What is something else that means addition? Adeza? The sum. If it says, what is the sum of these two numbers, we need to know that we are adding them. Just
Product.
Not product, that's for a different operation. So that is a good word, but we're going to use it with a different operation. Grace? If we say all together, how much do you have? We want to add it all together. Another one is the total. When we find the total to something, we are adding it. So now let's look at subtraction. Lucas?
Difference.
Difference. The difference between two numbers, you subtract them apart. What's another one, Will?
Minus.
Most word problems are not going to be that easy. James?
Less than.
Less than. And we could say subtracted from, subtracted from, or subtracted by. But we have to really think about how that's being worded. Subtracted from. 5 subtracted from 12. So 5 subtracted from 12. So that means we're starting with 12 and we take away the 5. Subtracted by 12 subtracted by 5. So you have to pay attention, which number do we put first? If we say subtracted from, 5 subtracted from 12, that's not 5 minus 12. So that means we're taking 12 away from the 5. So we have to be careful. Multiplication. James? Products. What else means that we're going to multiply? Lauren? Times. Grace? Yes. Of. Of means we are multiplying. Lucas? Groups of. Of or groups of. Both mean we're multiplying.
So if you do 5 out of 6, that would mean 30.
So groups of 5 means you multiplying it by 5. So we'll show you that of word, how that fits in. Division. Madden. Divide. Word problems are not always going to be that easy. Henry? Jude?
Is it quotient?
Quotient. The quotient means we are dividing. If you're finding a quotient of two numbers. And instead of groups of, we're putting them into groups of. But if we're putting them into those groups, we're dividing them down into groups. So be careful with subtraction. Unlike addition, the order of your expression matters. This is what I was talking about. 2 plus 3 is the same as 3 plus 2, but when we subtract, 3 minus 2 is not the same as 2 minus 3. So it matters the way things are worded, which number goes first and which number goes second. When you're adding, it doesn't really matter which order you add in, because you're going to get the same answer. So be careful with the subtraction, that you know which way it goes. If the order of operations dictates that part of the expression be done first, your verbal phrase needs to reflect that. Commas can help with that. So I'm going to show you what that means. But we have to think about that order of operations and how we write it out. That verbal phrase means instead of writing the numbers out, we're using our words. So let's see how this works. Alright. So it says, write the verbal phrase, the words, as an expression. So we're going to use our numbers and our symbols. Or write the expression as a verbal phrase. So they're going to give us an expression and we're going to put it into words. Important thing to note, an expression is different than an equation. Anybody know the difference between an expression and an equation? Adeza.
An equation has
The equation has an equal sign. So here, it's just saying an expression. So do I want to see equals this number? No, because we just want the expression. We don't want to do the math on this page. So when we're doing an expression, you are not doing the math. You're just writing out what the expression is. No equal signs. So let's look at this first one. The sum of 9 and 7. So look back up at your table. How would we write that expression? Christian.
9 plus 7.
Ma'am. That is our expression. The sum of 9 and 7 is 9 plus 7. So, Gabe, what's the difference between an expression and an equation? So are we doing expressions or equations? So do we have to put an answer? So equations, we are not doing. So we are not doing the math. Olivia.
What if we do the math?
It would be wrong because it's not following the direction.
But like, what if we put the expression and the answer? But like, just put the answer on top of it and not have an equal sign.
If you do that, it's going to be wrong on the test. Okay? If you, I'm going to call it wasting our time because we don't need to spend time on it, but if you do, okay, that's 16, so 9. I'm not going to, this is what I'm looking for. This is our answer. If you put an equal sign on it, it is not an expression, so it's not following the directions. Lucas.
If you got negative numbers in subtraction, as your answer, it wouldn't be the difference because a difference is like the difference between the number is negative. Like let's say it's 6 minus 9, the difference between 6 and 9 is negative 2.
The difference, you have to look at the order of your numbers. The difference between 6 and 9. So we start with 6 and you subtract 9. So yeah, it gets kind of goofy. We're not going to have any that are like that. Okay. So the difference of a number and 9. How would I write that? The difference of a number and 9. What do you think, Damien?
X minus 9.
X is our variable. You could do N because it says number. You could do M because it's sort of your name, right, Matthew? We like M's. So you could do whatever variable you want, but we don't know what it is. And 9. So the difference of a number and 9. So let's skip down to those commas. Because remember I said those commas are important. So let's look at 3 times a number plus 8. How do you think I'm going to write that as an expression? What do you think, Claire?
You do 3 times X. And then you add 8.
Notice how I just put my 3 right next to the X. Why do you think I did that, Adeza? Because it means multiply. So we don't have to put the dot in there to show that we're multiplying. Just like when we put that number outside of the parentheses, we know that it meant multiplying. So when we're using a variable, we just put the number right next to the variable and we know it means multiply. Kaylin? So on the test, if you put this, I would accept it, but I want us to really get mathy because we're going to see this and we need to know what it means. We need to know that the number right next to a variable means we multiply. And it's really important because that is going to come up all the time. So know that when a number is right next to the variable, right next to the parentheses, it means multiply. The next one I'm going to let you see if you can figure out how that comma works. Then okay, mine looks a little bit different than this. So on the next page, they give us an expression, and we need to write it as a verbal phrase. So x over 6. How would I write that out? Jude?
A number, and then you could write a number divide it by 6.
A number divided by 6. The quotient of a number and 6. Right? So there are different ways we could say it. There's not just one answer. When we're doing the expression or the verbal phrase into an expression, there's one answer. But when we have an expression and we want to write it as a verbal phrase, we know there's different ways to say divide. So there's different ways that we can write it, but it has to mean the same thing. Questions on this? What does, oh, Jude just went over it with us. I wanted to point out that fraction bar, that operation is divide. So when you see a fraction bar, think of it as that division symbol. So the fraction bar means divide. Yes?
I have a question about 2x plus 3.
Okay.
What?
Who thinks they can come up with a verbal phrase for that? Madden. So remember, we have to use words. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so commas matter. Remember, those commas tell us something. So what you're saying here is 2, when you put the comma there, it means, multiplying it, 2 times a number plus 3. That's what that comma there means. When you have 2 comma times a number plus 3, we're going to be putting those parentheses in the wrong place. Any other guesses? Grayson? Uh-huh. Sure is. Because that's exactly what I did. Is I looked right at it. Oh, you just did this. So his hand messed it. That's a 2. So 2 times a number, comma, plus 3. So that's saying we want to do the 2x, 2 times a number, then we have the comma plus 3. So it's the same as what was on the page before. When we had all of those verbal expressions, it was one of them. Different numbers, but you could always look back at the verbal expressions that you've already done and you use that to help you know where to put the commas. So, hold on. Then we have our review at the very bottom. So make sure you do your review. So for my friends listening at home, we hope you are well. We hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.